Today, I'm speaking with Maureen Andersen, the CEO of INTIX, the International Ticketing Association. She's a rock star in the ticketing industry. She's done everything you can imagine in this industry, and she's leading the association. Great insight, great perspective, and big hope for what's coming for our industry. Enjoy listening to Maureen Andersen. Hello, and welcome to a new episode of the Business Meeting Podcast. I am here now with the most respected and the most known person in the ticketing industry, Maureen Andersen, who's the CEO of INTIX, the International Ticketing Association. Maureen, I'm so grateful you found the time to speak with me. How are you?
I'm good, Eric. Honey, how are you? We've known each other a long time, so I called you honey. I'm sorry. That's probably not very professional.
That's okay. It's totally okay. Well, the first question I had, because you basically have been doing everything in the ticketing industry, as you say yourself, but how does somebody, the same thing goes for people joining the meetings and event industry and the ticketing industry. When did you know that this is the passion that you had and this is something that you wanted to spend your life doing?
It's funny, I just wrote an essay on this very topic, and it wasn't necessarily that I knew I was going to be in ticketing, but I wanted to be in show business. And I have known since I was 9 years old that this world of live entertainment, show business, is where I wanted to be. And I didn't know what form it was going to take, so I took the logical ones through growing up and playing an instrument. I played the flute, I was in band, I was in choirs, I was in theater, and it kind of just morphed as I went into college. But the first inkling I got was when I went to my junior year of college. I was transferring, and I had a scholarship. And part of my work study is that I had to work somewhere within the department. And their first question was, do you sew? No. Can you paint? Can you do construction? No. Can you type? I'm dating myself by saying that. Can you type? And the answer was yes, I could type on a typewriter. And so they put me in the university's theater's box office. And that's really where it started. And even though I continued to go down the path of getting a theater degree, is that somewhere along the line, I realized that I was going to be able to actually support myself on a different side of the footlights than what I was doing. And I had a head for it. I had the right brain for it. I understood it. It didn't take a lot to teach me. And really from there on, from that work study program in my junior year of college, is this ticketing kind of career was born. And I was lucky enough through going to a dinner theater and then landing at the Denver Center for the Performing Arts and got to sit in all the chairs there, from ticket agent answering the telephones to group sales, the subscription department, and all the way up to the director of ticketing and the treasurer. And I was there 23 years doing it, so I got to sit in all the chairs.
Wow, that's impressive. You know, one thing I discovered when I moved from the meetings and event industry and I extend now in the ticketing industry when I opened CQTix in the Americas. One thing I found out is that I'm laughing when people say "have a good weekend." Because whether you're organizing a project or you're in ticketing, there is no such thing as a good weekend. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, because, we are like we're waiters. I mean, there's no busker's holiday for people who work in the theater or live event sector, because we work the most during the nights, weekends, and holidays. And that's when the business happens. That's when you do it. Yes, there's shows on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but there's always shows. Sometimes there could be 25 shows in a weekend from Friday to Sunday night, depending on how many theaters you have and what's going on and how many curtains. If you do the Radio City, or if you used to do David Copperfield back in the day, they would do 3 and 4 shows a day. So it's, you kind of run away with the circus when you do this business, because you don't get a lot of time off. Summers aren't downtime because you're getting ready for fall when football starts or when the symphony season begins. So it's kind of this always on, always busy. And weekend for you or me and working in ticketing may be Monday, because you don't play on Monday night.
Exactly. And I'm glad you're answering the question, because for all the people that are listening, that are thinking of having a career. Like show business is, of course, exciting. And those who are thinking of starting their own company, which is wonderful. And they have to know where they're stepping their foot in. There is no such thing as weekend.
No. And if you're on the other side of a business support, you don't get a weekend either. Because if I have a show that's going up a curtain at 8 o'clock and something's going wrong on a Friday night, you're on too, because you're on call. I'm going to call you saying the system's down, I got a problem, or it's burping, or whatever's going on. I'm going to call you. And I'm not shy about it.
Do you remember any like horror story? Again, that is a common point of meetings, events, and ticketing. Nothing ever happens 100% the way it is planned. So it is any like horror story that turns out like amazing that you can remember, you could share with us?
Well, there's so many. I mean, the real horror stories are, the night at Phantom of the Opera opened its national tour in Denver in a brand new building, I might add. So the building had gone through this whole renovation from an arena to a theater. But we had Phantom of the Opera for, a great long run, and it was over the holidays. Everybody was always really tense. But, the greatest horror story was when the guy dropped dead, literally had a heart attack in the sound lock, the two doors between the outs of the lobby and the theater. And and there were people who came up to me in the ticket office saying, I know that guy just died or had a heart attack. Can I move into his seats? I mean, those are the kind of horror stories you really get, or the people who bring a gerbil to the theater and keep it tucked up under their dress. The public is an odd group. So, but you can also have the ones is that in this business is you have chaos going on in the morning. At 9 o'clock in the morning, you're working on all kinds of problems. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever was really important at 10 a.m. has no value whatsoever, because now you have a curtain going up in 3 hours and you've got to switch gears. So every day is a little bit of chaos and a little bit of stress, because you have to change in the middle of it and then go meet the public and go to what is considered the live moment. And, I've lived through them. Transformers blowing, and you don't have a ticketing system, but you have a show that night. You have power in the backstage, but you don't have power in the ticket office, or you have to set up outside because you don't have any power. All of those things make you very, very nimble. There's also the sad things that have happened is, not knowing is I lived in Denver, as noted, and when the Columbine shooting happened, we had a show opening that night of a Broadway tour, and it was whether we went up or not. Do we do a show tonight or not? And it wasn't our choice. It was the company's choice ultimately, and they chose not to do a show that night, but then to do it the rest of the run. Living in Denver, you had snow, and the show went on whether you had snow or not. And the people who would call and say, it's snowing at my house. Well, it's not snowing here. And we didn't shut down. We didn't shut down unless the governor, or the mayor shut down the city streets. So, the show went on.
Oh, got it. And so after all these years sitting in all these chairs, how did you move to taking the lead at Intex? And I remember just before meeting you, Brad Main, who's the CEO of IAVM, telling me that I should meet with you. And then I don't remember who I mentioned your name, and they say, oh, yes, she's the Brad Main of Intex, in terms of integrity, in terms of experience, in terms of, taking the hard fight and winning them. So how did that happen, this transition to Intex?
Well, Brad and I share a common kind of path, is that we both were in the business and we both got kind of hired in and around the same time. He was slightly ahead of me to take over IAVM. And, I had gone from working at the Denver Center to then working at a series of ticketing providers, including Paciolan and Audience View. And so I had seen the other side of it. And I was actually recruited, and they were searching for a CEO, and I was recruited. And ultimately went through the process, and they brought me in. And I had a good friend of mine, a very good friend, actually, who's in the business, and who said to me is that, if you've been doing this job your entire career, then Intex is what have you been doing it for if it isn't to take over for Intex and to do that? And that resonated a lot for me. And I think I bring a unique thing to it because I have sat in all the chairs. I've been on the provider side and I've been on the providee side. I've been in a venue. I've done ticketing for pretty much everything from hard tickets to, computerized ticketing the way it exists today. So I sit on a generational flashpoint as well. And because I have roots in the old ways and I actually did it in the new ways. And I've worked a lot of different systems. So I guess I was the right place at the right time with the right chops. And I'm grateful for it. It's been a wonderful choice for me, and I hope for the association as well. And I have great respect for Brad because, he sat in all the chairs too.
Absolutely. And with all these years in the industry, last year, you've been faced with something that has never been seen before. And speaking to your leadership and your experience, you've been really pulling everybody together, leading the way, having every Wednesday calls, giving hope, updating people, a very human type of leadership that I know everybody appreciate very much.
Thank you.
What have you learned the last 15 months about our industry, about yourself? With COVID and all this craziness and closing and people losing their job and everything?
When it happened is that I had, I'll be honest with you, is that, within the first days of shuttering in and around March 13th, I had my own crisis. I literally trying to not only fear of this disease that no one understood and fear for my family and what was going to happen. But it was that what am I supposed to do when the majority of who I service, from vendors to members to people, are being forced to close and to shut down and to have to leave their jobs out of absolutely no wrongdoing or anything else or any reason other than we had a pandemic. And I had to dig a little deep on that one and then just figure it out. But what I came to is that I needed to be authentic, and that I touched into is that if I was in their chairs, what would I want? What would I need? What would I be looking for? How could somebody help me? And what really came to me, and we started the Wednesday calls, is that people needed a place to talk, to commiserate, to deal with what was going on. And I learned all the way through is that I'm far more resilient than I ever thought I was, that I'm far nimbler. I always said we were a nimble bunch, but we are really a nimble group of human beings who are a special breed who can do this. When the doors shut, the ticket offices, or one or two of them, were the only ones left in buildings or at the end of a telephone for an organization, for a venue, for a team. And we learned that not only could we sell something out with great speed and rapidity, but we could also reverse it, and we could unsell it all, and we could refund it also with great skill and rapidity. And that we are resilient and strong and smart and able to take and roll with the punches. And that's really what it was about. But we also needed a community and a way to process what was happening to us together. And I made a choice, along with my board of directors and my staff, is that there would be pieces and parts of INTIX, which is a membership organization, that we would ungate and that we would allow people to be involved in at a deeper level. Eric, one of the things we did is you and I partnered on a fantastic, virtual summit of tickets, this time last year.
Thank you.
This time, 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And, we got in front of people and we did it for free, and we kept, it's those kind of things that I worked with others, like people like you, to make sure that we were all still connected, whether we were working or not. And then through the past 14 months is that it became this lifeline where those who went first could infuse and teach those who were going to come later. with pod seatings and bubbles and, all the reports that were starting to come out that all the vendors were providing for orphaned pod seats, pod integrity. I mean, we created a whole new language. We had to reinvent it, and nobody knew how to close it, but that was easy compared to how the hell do we reopen it? And still with a disease sitting on top of us. And one thing that I learned the most out of this is that, which I've always known, but it took something like this to really prove it, is that the silos that we were in by vertical or type of work that we did, all of a sudden didn't matter at all. Sports people were learning, college athletics was learning, we were learning from Europeans, from Australians, sports from arts, arts from sports, entertainment. Everybody was learning from each other because there was no playbook. There still isn't. We're still learning how to reopen an industry safely and humanely.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the good news is that from what I've heard, Broadway now is fully reopening mid-September, correct?
Yeah, there will be starting to roll with a certain amount of shows, with most shows with, having 40 some shows up by the first of the year. So it'll be a rolling process. They'll start with 5 to 8 to 15, and then they'll just go from there. But many of them have already announced their actual opening dates. And on the road, many of those road cities, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Denver, Charlotte, all of the Las Vegas, everybody's opening and announcing their dates as well for when they're starting with their shows.
I read today that, and for the record, we're recording this on the 25th of May. I've read today that Las Vegas was reopening fully without mask, without any social distance, full speed.
Here we go. It's like baseball. It's like they've all opened up to or are opening. All of it comes down to where you are and what they feel comfortable with locally and how they're doing it. It's the wild, wild west on this one,
Yeah, right. What do you think is going to happen when you see the way, for instance, in Europe, they're talking about this green passport, and the US would say, no passport. What is going to happen, and especially when you travel one way or another, how do you see the different places in the world, and do you think that we're gonna have issues afterwards if people are coming from outside our region?
It's going to be a mishmash. And the reason I say that is because the United States and North America probably is not in a position to say we're going to have a vaccination or a pass. We're not that kind of environment. And as you know, Americans don't like to be told what to do. So the same dynamic we saw with masking, not masking, vaccination, not vaccination, we're going to have the same thing with travel and no travel. Mm-hmm. And opening the borders and doing that. What's ironic about it is if you're traveling to another country is that we will abide by the rules that another country has imposed. My sister's going to Aruba next week, and she has to have, the test in 72 hours in advance. A maximum of 72 with a negative. Doesn't have to have the vaccination proof, but has to have the test, and then has to have the test when she leaves as well. Mm-hmm. And she can do it at her resort. So, I think everybody will play by the rules wherever they're at. And I think there's going to be rules all over the place for all kinds of things, depending on who and what you are. What was it today? Did you see what United put out today?
No.
Upload your vaccination proof to your account and be entered in a lottery to win free travel for a year.
Oh, fantastic.
And you have until June 22nd to upload your vaccination proof to your United account. But it's, the Hollywood Bowl, I read a story this morning, the Hollywood Bowl is doing vaccination seats versus not vaccination seats. And once you get past the first point of ingress, you have to show your vaccination card, and then you can sit in the vaccination seats. And you can be close to each other and not wear a mask. All of that's going to roll. And there'll be those rules, but those rules, as we get safely into this, will start to ease themselves out. I suspect Broadway, when you go to a Broadway show, you're going to have to wear a mask, and that will be probably well into their opening and their runs. Mm-hmm. But it's just not going to, somebody said to me in a text or something about, it's COVID safety theater.
Yeah, right. Right. Okay.
Well, in meetings, let me ask you this. I mean, in the meeting space, I mean, you see it like, in hotels and conference spaces all over. The rules are a mishmash, right?
Yes, and we've seen it in the same. There's what we've seen with our customer in Europe is that they, for instance, soccer, even museum, they're reopening. They have, I would say, different rules per country, but it's gonna kind of being on the cautious side. Plus the fact that they're gonna have the vaccine passport in Europe, so that would be different than obviously museum here. And in terms of, I think the rest is, you're getting the vaccine, you're not getting the vaccine, it's your choice. But then, as usual, don't have an impact on the others. That's going to be the big debate, I think. The other thing I've seen. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say is that, it's the honor system, but it is always the honor system. I don't know somebody who's sitting next to me has the measles either.
That's true. And quite frankly, what I've seen that put a smile on my face when people, there's the type of people that say, oh, I'm not going to have it because I don't know what's inside. And they're telling you that while eating a hot dog and drinking a soft drink. And the other thing is, when I was planning incentive trip and sales meeting, and I had to go to, remember, Tanzania, for instance, I needed to have a yellow fever vaccine, and I had to prove that. That was not an issue for me, but obviously, we're not getting into that. But what I've seen this year, there's a lot of people talking about pivot, which I started to hate the word pivot every time I hear it, right? And in the meantime, a lot of things going online. You were talking about the Phantom of the Opera. By the way, I have to share a story with you. Belgium not having, Broadway show and everything. I grew up without knowing about the Phantom, having not traveled that much at that time. And I had a client, Café de Colombia, Juan Valdez, the vice president of Europe, was a big fan. And he said, you know what, we're going to Paris for Roland Garros, and we should do an evening on the theme of the Phantom of the Opera. And I went, that's a fabulous idea. So the next time I start researching, what is it, listening to it, fell in love with it, did a beautiful event at the Maison Opera in Paris with, people going back to their hotel after the tennis tournament, getting an invite with a mask, having the singers. It was just phenomenal. But this year, I think it was the broadcasting or rebroadcasting of the 25th anniversary of the Phantom. That was, I think, in the Albert Hall. I don't know where it was, but they were just broadcasting it with Andrew Lloyd Webber in attendance and all the people who had been singing, Christine or the Phantom. Raul, and I watched it. I was happy to watch it with my family in front of the big screen at home. But one kid's doing this, you're not really into it.
Yeah.
So my question is, now that we're going to reopen, do you think that, and I know everybody's craving to go back to in person, do you think that there is now an additional market for venue to have, and also maybe a different price and different tickets for in-person attendance and online attendance?
Yes. I think the live streaming and that whole component and repackaging and value add and upsell through live streaming components, yes, I think it's there to stay. And I think it's only going to grow. And I think it's only going to grow both creatively as well as part of the revenue streams within given organizations. Music, I think, is the easiest part because of the venues that they're in, and or being able to repackage a concert or showing a concert. Live theater is a little different, but there's many theaters that are going through renovation during this time that are building the live streaming infrastructures inside of their theaters to make sure that they can live stream. Number one is that creating that piece of content that they can repackage and sell afterwards, but also in selling it and doing it as an experience during. Places like the National Theatre of Great Britain, who have been live streaming throughout this and using their archive, I mean, that's built in now. They know that they have an audience abroad that has been paying for this. And yes, it will be paid. I think everyone kind of agrees. I saw a survey done recently over in the UK of musicians that 92% of all musicians believe that this is part of their revenue streams going forward. And audience members, think about the people who can't go out. The untapped ability to add 100,000 people to your event at $25 a piece. I mean, we're not talking 10, we're talking 25. That's what I paid for a ticket to a live stream event last week, was $25. So, and I paid one that was $29, and that was the discount pre-order early bird rate. So yes, it's there. Now, will it be everything? No. Will you build kind of VIP thing? Yes, but it's going to be utilized deeper. Number one is that also it's a safety net, Eric, that the industry itself will not be without product should and when this happens again. If we had to, for whatever reason, we've shut down now. It could happen again, and probably will at some point. Hopefully not my lifetime. I hope once is enough. But is that not? That to not be without product and to be stuck all of a sudden with nothing, and having to make it up because you got to figure out a revenue stream. And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you do this? I don't think it takes away. It does not detract from me going to the theater at all. I will still go to the theater. I will still go to concerts. But if there's something I really want to see that's someplace that I can't see it, like right now, I'm not in London. I'm not going to go to London anytime soon, but I'd be really happy to buy a ticket for something in London that I want to see now.
Yeah, that reminds me of the first time that football game were going to be broadcasted. People say, nobody's going to go to the stadium. At the contrary, more people saw it on TV and more people wanted to be in the stadium.
And look at the amount of revenue on broadcast rights now for sports in general across the board.
Yeah.
It's huge amounts of money. And why would music, and this is just the first germ of it, and I think it will grow. And it's exciting actually for me. I think it's wonderful.
So who is the first artist or the first venue which is going to create with the premiere of the show an NFT that cannot be seen by anybody else and sell it?
Oh, I haven't the faintest idea. That one just makes my teeth hurt.
Yeah, it's a different world.
It is a different world. And I mean, it's the average, human being buying a ticket, that isn't the kind of space that they can play in. I mean, it's to a certain degree, it's the luxury of people with money.
And ego. Because
and ego.
Yeah.
And, the average human being off the street, my next door neighbor here in Palm Springs is not going to buy her Dodgers tickets using, a Bitcoin or an NFT or anything else. She's just not. It's not even in her vocabulary.
And is she going to be your next door neighbor? Is she going to be willing to buy a Dodger ticket, or will she be looking at having it on mobile? How much is this? Because we were talking for years, everything going mobile, and no. And now with COVID and everything, everybody wanted to be mobile. So what's the future?
It just fast-tracked it. I mean, everybody was dragging their heels or making every excuse in the book about money, and it was expensive. And, why make the decision today when you may have to pay for something else? But this fast-tracked it so that the norm is going to be a mobile ticket. The question remains is that how do organizations, event planners, promoters, buildings, teams balance that yet subset of society that doesn't want everything to be immobile, who do want that human interconnection, who, even if they are mobile, if something goes wrong, they want a human being, or the people who do want a hard ticket, and that those people exist, and they're a part of your audience and your fan base.
Absolutely.
So it's just going to be that little balancing thing that's going to be the tricky part for us in the beginning, because all or nothing propositions in any size, shape, or form to customers today aren't going to work. And customers are much more sophisticated now. And no is not an answer that they want to hear coming out of a pandemic.
Absolutely. Do you think it's going to be also an impact on the box office?
In which way? Which one? Mobile or in general?
No, what happened with COVID and the technology and the change and everything.
Of course, yeah. It has to change, and everyone's going to have to adapt to all the new technologies, which everybody's going to be happy to do. I mean, most people are happy to finally get there. Some of it's going to be bumpy. Some of it's going to be problematic. I think one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, which is to me one of the most interesting pieces, is how does customer service change when we do this? But also, let's jump forward into early 2022 or at Christmas time, 2021.
Yeah.
We're going to have a huge glut of entertainment and event options available. Live Nation said last 2 weeks ago that they have already booked more shows for 2022 than they had in all of 2019. So there's going to be this huge glut of options, and we can't go to everything all at the same time. So, and all of it's going to kind of be hitting more or less at the same time. And when does that happen? It's like the whole world is going to have a giant on sale. So, what's going to happen with that? How are we going to fill the audiences? Will they be filled? Will there be, enough to fill to capacity over a longer period of time? When the newness wears off of being able to go back, will people settle back into it's like pick and choose mode, or will they still be rushing out because it's still so exciting? So, we're going to have issues after the fact as well.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing from you is that amazing, exciting times are coming.
Very much so. When does the world? Okay, let's boil it down a little bit. When does an industry like this get a chance to kind of have time to reset? What's exciting is all of those vendors and providers who use this time to fix product, to create new product, to deploy new product. I mean, it's great. When do code writers have this much free time, uninterrupted, to be able to do that? That's exciting, and people are creating. And it's the plague, the dark ages is coming to an end, and then we will get a renaissance. And I think it's going to be amazingly exciting. And all of those people who had the chance to create in isolation, we get to shine a spotlight on that. I think the new product coming out is going to be terrific. The new music, the new operas, the new songs, the dances, the musicals that have been written that we haven't even heard about yet. I said that's fascinating and amazing.
Yep, absolutely. I can wait for that. And we are talking about customer experience. What do you think is going to change? Because there's some artists I wanted to go, and I wanted to go with my family, and then they were opening the sales Friday, 10 a.m. I was in front of my computer. I keep pushing at 10 a.m. and 1 minute. I was in the back of the stage, back of the stadium, sorry, and the price were ridiculous. And so I didn't know, times 5, no, I cannot afford that. So something is going to change in that, and with maybe smart contract or having the reality of the ticket, not having to pay 10 times the face value? Or you think that we're going to go back to the craziness with the secondary market, and people basically, the customer that will be able to afford it will go, and those that cannot, too bad?
I think in the beginning, because there's going to be such a rush to things, and so many big shows are going to go on sale and things like that and capitalize on it, I think we will settle down, and I'm very hopeful of this, that we will settle back down into a little bit more humane kind of way. Because once that bubble has gone up and out, I mean, that curve, because then we have to settle down and we have to be partners with our customers. And to me, that's the most important thing in a pandemic, is that we've learned is that we're partners with our customers. Will the same old rules apply? No exchanges, no refunds, all sales are final. I'm hoping not. I think it's going to be very difficult to explain that to your customers. One thing I don't want to see is And what scares me is that people will revert and say, oh, well, those were our COVID pandemic rules.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really organizations who do that. It's the, Eric, you and I had a conversation about brand 14 months ago. And those brands that take care of their customers and partner with them and talk to them and know what they want and will figure out how to price it and to do it well and to keep the loop tight within that family of community that they do. And I think data is going to be the huge piece in this, is that you really know who are your customers' fans, what do they want, how do you matriculate with them, and how do you sell them what they want or upsell them in a way that's practical. And the technology is certainly there to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we utilize it.
Yeah, you make me think, by the way, that in relation with customer service, that's exactly, we as a company, we didn't follow anybody. We kept everyone, we even hire additional people in different geography to serve better the customer. So you're absolutely right, being close and serving your customer. Now, Maureen, I know you're extremely busy, but I'd like to have at least one more question with you. Next January, you're coming our way in Florida with INTIX in Orlando, right?
I am. We are coming. Me personally, we are going to be together live in person. We're going to have handshakes. We're going to have hugs, and we're going to do it in Orlando at the Rosen Shingle Creek Resort. January 18th through the 21st. And I am so thrilled to be having the conversations that I'm having now about food and beverage contracts and BEOs and spaces. And, you're on that side. Mm-hmm. And getting ready to do the call for presentations and getting ready to open the hotel block. There's absolutely no reason that INTIX shouldn't be live. And we will be live. And we did a virtual conference in January, which I am so glad that I did for the association and with the association. But there's nothing that beats that live face-to-face interaction, see your eyes. And we're going to be back live, and I'm really happy about that. And I think it's going to be terrific. And you'll be there. You're always there. You're one of our rocks.
That's very kind. So we're going to be there. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have a glass of champagne. And what are we going to be toasting at? What are we going to be celebrating there?
We're going to celebrate the resiliency and the flourishing of live entertainment and how exciting it is. And we will toast that we made it through this alive and well, and that we are the survivors who kept an industry going. And, I salute all of you, because you're the ones who've kept it going for yourselves, for your customers, for the venues, for the orgs, for the fans, the patrons. And, that's one heck of a reason to celebrate.
And that's when, at that moment, I regret I don't have a DJ next to me, because just after what you said, he could play alive and kicking from the silver mines.
Hear, hear, Eric.
Maureen, thank you very much. Be well, and I can't wait to see you face to face.
Me too. I'll cash in and get my big Eric hug. Thank you, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you, Maureen, for taking the time to speak with me. I can't wait to see you face to face, and I can't wait to go back to the show, to the museum, to the venues, to the concert in person, finally, after all this time. If you want to talk to me or connect with me, please reach out via LinkedIn or go to my Facebook group, www.eventbusinessformula.com/group. And I look forward to interacting with you. Thank you. Bye.